This man got caught in the system. Love y'all. Talk to y'all later. I'm a former gang leader, 11 East Broadway Gangsta Crips. So a lot of people know me. My former aliases was HK Pooh, Gutter Coley, Savage.
A violent morning in South LA. We are on the ground for breaking news in Broadway, Manchester. A deadly shooting. Police believe it could be gang related, and they're trying to figure out if it's connected to two other shootings in that same area.
They blame me for two shootings. One was my friend. He was in the driver's seat of his car. The passenger of the car killed him. They said it was me based on no evidence at all. Man, got caught in the system. Love y'all. Talk to y'all later. Thank you.
In today's video, we're going to be speaking about HK Pooh from the 11 Deuce Broadway Gangsters. We're going to cover everything from his early life to his court cases, and we're also going to cover 5 shootings and 3 murders that would take place. But let's dive right into it. At one point, HK Pooh was a shot caller from the 11 Deuce Broadway Gangsters, and his father was one of the founders of the 11 Deuce Broadway Gangsters. And even though he has HK in his name, his mother would be from 8 Trey Hoover. And growing up, HK Pooh was heavy into sports. He was even close friends with Russell Westbrook, and he even played basketball with him growing up in junior high. But at the age of 14, everything would change when Pooh would catch an attempted murder charge. And ever since then, he would be in and out of jail his whole life. But right now, we're going to focus on just one major case. Let's dive right into it. And it would all start in December of 2011. And around that time, somebody named Leon Moore won a bunch of money gambling. And it's alleged that HK Pooh would find out that he won all that money. HK Pooh would then go to his house and knock on the door, holding a shotgun. And after HK Pooh demanded the money, Moore would go into a different room and lock himself in that room, and he would wait for HK Pooh to leave the house. After HK Pooh left, Moore would call somebody named Antion West, aka Little Noonie. Moore would then tell Little Noonie what happened, and Little Noonie would tell him not to worry about it, and that he would speak to HK Pooh, and that it wouldn't happen again. But unfortunately for Little Noonie, on February 2nd of 2012, which would be 2 months later, he would be shot around 10 o'clock at night. And the shooting would take place near 108th Street and Spring Street. This location would be a couple of blocks away from the police station, and cops would be getting into their vehicle when they would hear the shootout. Police would then look down the block, and they would see a car stopped in the middle of 108th Street about 100 feet away, and they would see the driver opening fire. There was 2 people that was shot, Antion West, who was Little Noonie, and Grady Myers, who was Tall. Grady Myers, aka Tall, would be T4 DeLoke's father. Detectives would then drive towards the gunfire, and they would see somebody opening fire 6 to 7 more times. And the shooting happened outside a known 11 Deuce hangout spot known as the Big House. Lil Noonie was shot in the foot, and Tall was grazed in the lower back. The shooter's vehicle would then take off when he seen officers arrive, and the officers would give chase. Eventually, the vehicle came to a stop, and the shooter, who was the driver, would jump out and start to run. And there was also a passenger in the vehicle who ended up taking off running also, and he was also arrested. Detectives would end up finding out that the shooter was actually from 11 Deuce Broadway also, and his name was Yo Ball. The passenger would tell detectives that he didn't know about the shooting, and that Yo Ball picked him up outside of a gas station. And he would tell detectives that when he got in Yo Ball's vehicle, Yo Ball was upset and had a swollen face. The passenger would then tell detectives that Yo Ball told him that he got into it with his homeboys, and that his homeboy's name was Lil Noonie, and that he was going to go to the Big House to holler at them. He would then tell detectives that they saw 2 people standing outside, and Yo Ball would reach for his firearm, open the window, and open fire on the group. They would then arrest and charge Yo Ball with the shooting of his homeboys Lil Noonie and Tall. But just 6 days later, while Lil Noonie was recovering from his foot shot, on February 8th of 2012, HK Pooh would go back to Moore's apartment. HK Pooh would then knock on the door and tell Moore that he was looking for his roommate. Moore would then refuse to open the door, and allegedly, HK Pooh threatened him and told him, "On Broadway, you better open this door, I'm gonna shoot you." Moore would then walk away from the door, and allegedly HK Pooh would open fire, and he would hit Moore in the shoulder. HK Pooh would then leave the house, and no arrest was made at this time. And just 3 weeks after Little Noonie was shot, on February 26th of 2012, Little Noonie would call his girlfriend, and he would say he got into an argument and he shot and killed some people. And the person he was referring to would be Curtis Sproul, who was also known as Rat Capone, and he was from the Main Street Mafia. And like we said, the shooting happened on February 26th, just before 10 o'clock at night. And Rat Capone and 2 others were shot in a drive-by shooting. Rat Capone passed away, and the 2 others, one was in stable and the other was in critical, but they ended up both surviving. And Rat Capone was 31 at the time of his death. And still to this day, no arrest would be made in this murder, and you're going to see why in a little bit. And on March 4th of 2012, which would be a week after the murder of Rat Capone, HK Pooh would be at Economy Motel and he would be looking for Lil Noonie. And while he was at the Economy Motel, he would converse with somebody named Starletta Coffee and somebody named Baby Noonie, who would be under Lil Noonie. And at that time, HK Pooh's phone was broken, and they're alleging that he would use Baby Noonie's phone to call Lil Noonie. And just before 8 o'clock at night, Lil Noonie would pull up and he would pick up HK Pooh, and they would leave in Lil Noonie's vehicle. And then a few hours later, just before midnight, Lil Noonie would pick up a female with the last name George at the motel. And Lil Noonie and this female would drive around. And while they were driving, Lil Noonie would receive a phone call and he would go back to the motel and he would drop her off. And the female would say that she saw HK Pooh get in the vehicle with Lil Noonie after he dropped her off. And she would say that after he dropped her off, she would notice that she left her wallet in the vehicle. So she would attempt to call Lil Noonie and she would attempt to call HK Pooh, and neither of them would answer. She would then continue to call both of them while walking around the neighborhood looking for them. She would then run into HK Pooh and she would say that he looked very sweaty and looked like he saw her ghost or something. And after that, they both returned to the motel. And around this time, which would be 12:35 in the morning on March 5th of 2012, police would respond to the call of shots fired, and they would find a silver Dodge Charger with the driver's side window shattered and the passenger door wide open. And inside of that vehicle, they would find Lil Noonie, and he was shot and killed on South Spring Street. And don't forget that earlier when he was shot previously with Tall, aka T4 DeLoke's father, it was also on Spring Street. So now don't forget that on February 2nd, him and Tall got shot. So within a month, he was shot in the foot. They were accusing him of shooting 3 people and killing Rat Capone, and now he just got shot and killed. But police would find a bunch of shell casings from a 10mm handgun, and they would also find a .45 caliber handgun. No arrests would be made, but the streets would be talking at this time. And don't forget at this time, Lil Noonie just dropped off that girl with the last name George, and she would tell people that after Lil Noonie dropped her off, she would see HK Pooh get in the vehicle with Lil Noonie. But some time would go by, and police would start to interrogate the people around HK Pooh. They would eventually interrogate HK Pooh's sister, and she would tell police that she seen him with a 10mm handgun. She would also tell detectives that HK Pooh talked to her about the shooting. And she would tell detectives that HK Pooh told her that Lil Noonie asked them to participate in a shooting. But this shooting happened to be on their own gang. As you can see, he would ask them to participate in a shooting on the Broadway gangsta hangout spot. She would then tell detectives that HK Pooh didn't want to do so. So he would tell Lil Noonie to pull over because he had to use the bathroom. And when he did that, he would jump out the vehicle and open fire on Lil Noonie. And she wouldn't be the only family member that folded on him. One of their cousins would also say the same exact story. But eventually HK Pooh would be arrested and they would charge him with 1 count of attempted murder, 1 count of shooting at a vehicle, and 1 count of murder. The first count of attempted murder would be when he shot Moore in the shoulder. And the last 2 counts would be from the Lil Noonie situation that happened on March 5th of 2012. And after sitting in the county jail for a few months, he would begin trial. And on August 15th of 2012, on count 1, he would be acquitted by the jury. On count 2 and 3, he would be convicted by the jury and found guilty. And they would give him 135 years to life in state prison, where till this day, HK Pooh claims his innocence.
They blame me for 2 shootings. One happened March 5th, the other one happened February 8th, 2012. One was my friend. He was in the driver's seat of his car. The passenger of the car killed him. They said it was me based on no evidence at all. They got video surveillance that ain't clear of somebody getting into the car. They got 3 witnesses. One of them happened to be my sister that told him I did it. One witness, the LAPD coerced him to send it. They did it, gave fingerprints and DNAs on the car. Mine ain't. There's no eyewitnesses, no nothing. I got the evidence here. Nobody want to look at it. I'm just praying that somebody somewhere look into Dante Kyle, People versus Dante Kyle.
But that right there is going to wrap up the story of HK Pooh from 11 Deuce Broadway Gangsters. And I appreciate you guys for tuning in. But comment, like, and subscribe. I appreciate you guys. It's Respectable Rants.